are still in new business. At this time, I believe the Economic Development Chair is wanting to make a motion.
All right, thank you. Speaker, Secretary, Body. Yes. I was gonna make a motion to amend the agenda to bring forth the ICE program agreement.
Okay,
Second that.
so we've got a motion on the floor to bring the the Montana Department of Commerce ICE program agreement to the floor at this time, which is in new business. Second by Senator Two Leggins. We have a question by Senator Pretty Pate. All those in favor of this motion, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carries with a vote of 15 yes, 0 opposed, and 0 abstaining. Okay. So at this time, we will address the joint action resolution entitled Resolution Approving the Crow Tribes Limited Waiver of Sovereign Immunity in the 2013 Montana Department of Commerce ICE Program Agreement. And I believe we have executive, legal, Mr. Bill Watt here representing the executive branch. So the floor recognizes Mr. Bill Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body, Yolanda. The resolution is a joint action resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislature and the Crow Tribal Executive Branch entitled, quote, Resolution Approving the Crow Tribes Limited Waiver of Sovereign Immunity in the 2013 Montana Department of Commerce ICED Program Agreement.
Motion to adopt by Senator Huggs, second by Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District. Go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas the Montana General Appropriations Act authorizes the Montana Indian Country Economic Development Program, the ICED, to distribute funds to eligible tribal governments for business development projects, workforce training projects, entrepreneurial training, feasibility studies, and other business development projects, and the State Tribal Cooperative Agreements Act, MCA Sections 18-11-101 et sequitur, authorizes the ICED to enter into agreements for distributing funds to tribes for such purposes. And whereas the Montana Department of Commerce has prepared the attached Indian Country Economic Development Program Agreement number MT.ICED-13-005, the quote ICED agreement, unquote, for distributing funds to the Crow Tribe, which is attached here to and incorporated by reference. And whereas the $70,000 in funds distributed pursuant to the 2013 ICED program will be used by the Crow Tribe for continued operation and improvement of the Ipsalica Revolving Loan Fund, which provides startup and expansion loans and technical assistance for business owned by tribal members, including staff training and salary, grant writing and outreach activities, and additional principal for the loan fund as provided in the ICED agreement. And the sum of $8,500 will be deposited into the State Tribal Economic Development Commission Special Revenue Account for the 2017 State Tribal Economic Development Commission Indian Equity Fund. And whereas the state of Montana has by statute waived its sovereign immunity from suit for contracts, actions, and disputes arising under the agreement, see MCA Title 18, Chapter 1, Part 4, and has requested that the Crow Tribe and other tribes participating in the ICED program also provide a limited waiver of its sovereign immunity for the sole purpose of enforcement of the ICED agreement in the form set forth in section 25 of the agreement. And whereas the chairman of the executive branch has authority and responsibility pursuant to the enumerated powers in Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution and bylaws of the Crow Tribe of Indians to represent the Crow Tribe in negotiations with federal, state, and local governments and other agencies, corporations, associations, or individuals in matters of welfare affecting the Crow Tribe, and, quote, to negotiate and approve limited waivers of sovereign immunity when such a waiver is necessary for business purposes in accordance with Article 5, Section 2F of the Constitution, unquote. And whereas the legislative branch has authority and responsibility pursuant to its powers and duties in Article 5, Section 2F of the Constitution, to, quote, grant final approval or disapproval of limited waivers of sovereign immunity by the executive branch when waivers are necessary for business purposes, unquote. And whereas the chairman of the executive branch has negotiated the terms of the limited waiver of the Crow Tribe's sovereign immunity as set forth in Section 25 of the ICED agreement, receiving the funding provided by the ICED agreement is in the best interests of the Crow Tribe, and the limited waiver of sovereign immunity is necessary for the business purpose of entering into the ICED agreement. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Crow Tribal Legislature and the Crow Tribal Executive Branch, Section 1, that the limited waiver of sovereign immunity in the form set forth in the Montana Department of Commerce Indian Country Economic Development Program Agreement number MT-ICED-13-005, attached hereto and incorporated by reference, is hereby approved. Section 2, that all written reports and any related information required to be produced to any state of Montana agency or subdivision pursuant to the ICED agreement shall be copied and delivered to the Secretary of the Legislature at the same time any such report is produced to the state. Section 3, that the approval granted herein is effective on the date of approval of this resolution.
Thank you. That brings us to the 30-minute presentation.
I have just a brief summary of the limited waiver, and we'll turn it over to Yolanda if she has any other additional words to say about the program. This is the same waiver that has been in for 2 or 3 different previous years for this program. It's in a standard form that the Montana Department of Justice has prepared, and we see it in several different state grant agreements. And it's better than most limited waivers that were requested to approve. First, it provides that applicable law will be all applicable federal law, tribal law, or state law. It's enforceable if there's a dispute about the grant in a court of competent jurisdiction. And if we were suing Montana, we know that would have to be in Lewis and Clark County and Helena, because that's how the state, the only place that the state can be sued. But I think this language leaves open the possibility of the tribal court having jurisdiction if they were to seek to enforce the agreement against us, against the tribe, which of course we don't want to be the case. We don't want there to be any litigation related to this matter or any question about the tribe's use of the funds. The remedy for the state is damages for breach of the agreement. And again, that's been identical to the limited waiver that this body has approved a couple times in the past for this grant program. With that, I'd be glad to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Yolanda.
So real quick, Mr. Watt, for a point of clarification, it looks like we're going to be having to address this every April session. It's going to be an annual approval rather than a one-time approval. We're going to have to be approving this every year, and it looks like it's going to be coming forward every April session then.
I believe that's the case. Every grant contract would have a separate one, unless the body wanted to consider and discuss and pass, a more continuing resolution. But for now, yeah, I think it's on a contract basis.
Okay. The floor recognizes Yolanda Odorf, who's the director for the Montana ICED program.
Hello. Good afternoon, Senators. So I'm briefly just going to discuss the success that the ICE grant has provided us in our business loan program. The business loan program just this month approved 2 more micro business loans for $5,000 each. That brings our total up from 9 to 11. I have 2 applications that are waiting to be underwritten as we speak. And we started actually getting loans out in 2011. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how many we have last year, but to date, we have given out $63,000 in loans to our Crow-owned businesses. So through a lot of hard work, we've been able to get this loan fund up and operating and actually performing. Last year, I had over 100 individuals that I helped on a one-on-one basis, providing technical assistance on how to complete the application, even to business development, services, financial projections. And in fact, I do quite a bit of training and quite a bit of workshops. I did a business plan workshop in December and one in January, and I have another one planned for May. And it's just trying to get people ready to borrow. And it's like a day to day. Almost every day I'm doing something like this. In addition, I'm trying to make this business loan program something that's going to be successful into the future, that will last beyond a year-to-year grant. We've been working, or me and my colleague Sean Wilbert have been working on establishing a community development financial institution that will be board ran and will be around forever. And I believe it's the jar to charter that is on your guys' old business. We haven't been around. We've been so busy, I feel like I'm doing about 3 different jobs right now. So if you guys have any other questions, go ahead and ask now.
We're still in presentation at this time.
Oh, we are?
So this is just proponents, anyone who's wishing to speak in support of the ICED program.
Okay.
Floor organizes Senator House.
All right, thank you, Speaker, Secretary, Body. Again, program that it's helping our people to venture on their own, to establish their own name out there. It's all of them.
Okay. I'd also like to add a comment too, as Secretary of the Economic Development Committee. After looking, when the chair and I had looked through this earlier, a couple weeks back, we had discussed how this is going to be an ongoing annual occurrence for the legislature to address. This is an approval that is going to be going on annually. And we had talked about maybe, Mr. Watt, maybe in the future, we're going to look at a one-time approval so that this program could just continue on. But just, if we have a one-time approval, what the chair of the Economic Development Committee had asked about was a report, a copy of a report. I believe there's reports that are sent to the state legislature. So we just like a copy of what's sent to the state legislature to come to the legislative branch over here. But I am in support of this. This is something that's needed to kind of get our people that want to start a small business. This is a starting point for them, so I'm in support of this as well. We're still in 30-minute presentation.
I'd like to.
Board floor recognizes Yolanda Odor.
I guess I could also discuss a few of the loan applicants or the loan recipients. We have a construction business. We have a horse dental, equine dental business. We have, I'm trying to remember who else. Those 2 are the $10,000 loans. They took the maximum, and they needed more. That wasn't enough. And a biofuel business. as well. So all three of them took a $10,000 loan, they got approved, we followed our policies and procedures, and, they definitely, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what they really needed. For the micro loans, the majority of them do need that much, and they could use more, but they're afraid to borrow more. We have 8 micro business loans now. They go from a DJ business to a photography business to a t-shirt business, to a home auditor business, to just a Crow Fair stand selling food, to a caterer, to a local jewelry seller and retail reseller. A majority of them are home-based businesses because we don't have the infrastructure, but they're being successful. I'm just trying to help them as much as I can. I try to provide them backup services after they get the loans, and you know, it's good to see some success finally after a few years. So, in addition, the program, we applied for the Native American CDFI Assistance Grant to establish a community development and financial institution. And we still have about $150,000 in loan funds for our lender, or for our borrowers. We're looking, like I said, we're looking at establishing something that's gonna be around, that's gonna do what I do, but probably 10 times more of what I do. Bringing on staff and providing much more services, including credit help and how to fix your credit and how to borrow and how to budget. And we're even considering looking at mortgages and providing home mortgages in the future. But it's still a process. We still got a lot of work to do. So,
All right.
yeah.
We're still in 30-minute presentation. If there's any more proponents, going once, going twice, third and final call. Okay, this will take us to the next, which will be Speaker of the House will ask the chairman of the designated committee for a recommendation of approval or disapproval. So at this time, the floor recognizes Chairman of the Economic Development Committee, Senator Hugs, for approval or disapproval.
All right, thank you, Speaker, Secretary, Body. Yes, recommendation from the committee would be for passage, approval, and because it's a continuing fund, it's a continuing resolution, so for approval.
Thank you. Now the floor is now open for debate. Any questions or concerns at this time? Floor recognizes Secretary of the House, Oak Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. Bill, Yolanda, thanks for coming. I think this is a good idea, coming every year. That way they let us know what's going on. If we just kind of do a continuing resolution, might not ever hear from them again. Thank you.
All right, that's a good point. So it's up to the body on that. Okay, well, it's just something that you can throw out there, and it's up to the senators too. So, we're still in debate. Any more questions? Any concerns? You know, the only issue I have is that we get a copy of the report that is filed with the state legislature. We want a copy to be brought to the legislative branch here as well. Floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Lodge Grass District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. This question is for William Watt. With reference to court jurisdiction, could you reiterate what the legislation says about court of competent jurisdiction? If you could, please. of course, with the speaker's permission.
Go ahead, Mr. Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, not afraid. The operative provision is actually in section 24 on page 11 of the program agreement, and it reads as follows. In subsection C.
Page 11? Page 11, right?
Page 11, correct, yes. Subsection C, I believe, if resolution is not possible, the parties agree and stipulate that venue for enforcement of the terms hereof lies in a court of competent jurisdiction. Again, I think the state law is clear that Montana has waived its sovereign immunity for suit in Lewis and Clark County on suit on contract against the state. I believe that this would leave at least arguable that to enforce it against the Crow tribe, it should come to tribal court. Now there are frankly arguments on the other side of that. It all depends on where the court would ultimately find that the transaction was consummated. And you know, in this case, you got money coming from Helena and coming to the reservation. So I think it's not at all a clear argument that we could prevail on to keep it in tribal court. But at least it doesn't force us in the first instance, you know, to be sued in state court. So that's, I think, it's a good question. It's the best I can do to answer it. It leaves some room for interpretation, but I think the bottom line is we don't want to be in a situation where we have to go to court because there's been an alleged breach of the grant contract. Be glad to try to answer any further if that's not sufficient.
Senator, not afraid, has your question been answered?
I just have a statement, Mr. Speaker, with reference to that. You're going to be back in a year, Mr. Watt, and I would prefer that there was language that actually said where we need to go. I mean, because if it doesn't say it, then it's subject to interpretation. I mean, heaven forbid the Crow tribe gets sued in state court, and it's open to that interpretation. Because currently, I mean, jurisdictional issues on the reservation belong in tribal court and or eventually federal court. But like I said, heaven forbid that this, and I do agree with you, Mr. Watt, that any of these issues would come to court. But I mean, if it's not spelled out, it's not spelled out. That's the bottom line here. I mean, if you come back in a year, which you will, and I agree with Senator Oldcroll's application of this today, that if you come back on an annual basis, then we're all kept up to speed. I certainly wouldn't want it to be a deal breaker today, but the thing is Mr. Watt, with due respect, if it's not spelled out, it's not spelled out. I mean, I've sat on the bench for 7 years now under a state of Montana court, and oftentimes I've always said that it's taken a white man's court to recognize tribal jurisdiction. There are several cases that I've deferred to tribal court because I believe that the tribe has that jurisdiction. I mean, I can't go into detail on how that came about, but if we don't recognize ourselves, who is? I mean, if we don't spell it out for ourselves, who's going to recognize us? That's just my comment, Mr. Watt. You'll be back in a year. I hope that there's stronger language that tells Montana if there's a dispute, they take us to tribal court. Those are just my thoughts, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. We're still in debate. We're still in debate, going once. Second call, we're in debate. Third and final call. No more questions or concerns, we will move on. At this time, the floor is open for any recommendations or motions for amendments. First call. Second call. Third and final call for any recommendations or motions for amendments. Third and final call. If there are none, we'll move on to second reading. The floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Lodge Grass District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, I move that we waive second reading and move into final vote.
We have a motion on the floor to waive second reading and move on to final roll call vote. Second by Senator Alden. Question by Senator Goes Ahead. All of those in favor, raise your right hand of waiving second reading and moving on to final roll call vote. Should our secretary step out? You have 13? Okay. All those opposed? All those abstaining? With a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining, we will move on to final roll call vote. That's with a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstaining. So we'll go on to final roll call vote. We'll be starting with Senator Other Medicine.
Yes, other medicine, Reno.
Coyote Ranch, Reno, yes.
Not Afraid, Ashbajay, yes.
Governor of Lodge Grass, yes. Alden, Bighorn, yes.
Not Afraid, Bighorn, yes.
Bighorn, yes.
Deep Green, Elm Creek, yes.
Goes Ahead, Aludashan, yes.
Hugs, Arrow Creek, yes.
Backbone, Mighty Few, yes.
Stewart, Ghost of God, yes.
Old Crow, yes.
Shane, Reno, yes. A total of 14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Resolution passes. Any comments from the executive branch? Floor recognizes Yolanda Odor, Director of the ICED program.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, senators. I really appreciate it.
Okay. That brings us back to the new business. This brings us to the towing bill, a bill for an act entitled an act to amend the Crow traffic ordinance to regulate rates and services provided by commercial towing companies. So at this time, the Transportation Committee Chair and Secretary have gone to make a presentation at the Transportation Orientation at Reno Hall. They'll be back in about 15 to 20 minutes, so we'll take a short recess. In the meantime, while we're on recess, there's some things we're gonna have to discuss pertaining to this bill. So right now, we'll be in recess, and then, I had some questions. I think Secretary of the House also does too, because this was a pocket meter, right?
Oh, that way. We can do that right now.
Yeah, we'll go into short recess, and you can tell you,
No,
right?
we can do it during session.
Oh, we can do it during
Yeah,
session?
that'd be better, we'll just get it quick.
All right, I guess we won't go into recess. Secretary of the House says we don't have to go into recess, that he'll explain what had happened, the situation with this towing bill. So the floor recognizes Secretary of the House, Okro.
Have to stand down here, I have to stand up. As you know, this was passed in the last session. And, according to Robert's rule, if I'm not wrong, it's in the system on this towing bill, I got. It's in the system, so therefore, it's still there, it's still alive and well, through this pocket veto. And speaking with the legal, our legal advisor and with the speaker, we need to address the situation. That way, it can be cleared of the books. Because if we just ignore it, sweep it under the carpet, someday, like 2-3 years from now, some of new senators might come in and say, hey, what the heck's going on around here? How come you guys aren't taking your business properly? Get you a nueva escola para explicar clear that way we can introduce this new one and get it done. And that way this old one, the one that was pocket vetoed through an error, that way it would be out of the system. And if I'm, wrong, I stand to be corrected, but that's the way I see it at this point. I hope.
I'd like to add to that too, is that, I spoke to the chairman after, Secretary of the House had made me aware that the time had expired, and I got a hold of the chairman, and he didn't realize that, he didn't sign this. And I told him, I said, that's probably why you might need a liaison to the legislative branch, someone who will remind you of what needs to be signed in your business that is going through committees and whatnot at the legislature. So when I brought it out to his attention, then he said he had apologized to tell the senators that I apologize. I don't mean to veto this. I didn't want to veto this or anything. It's just that with all that he was dealing with, he had forgot to sign it. So that was on behalf of the chairman there. Floor organizes Secretary of the House, Okro.
So now what we need to do is make a motion to bring it onto the floor, and if there's no motion, he'll make a motion, he'll request for this vetoed item to be brought to the floor, a motion to be made to be brought to the floor. And if there's no motion, then it's dead. Am I right, Legal J and Legal Bill? I don't believe so. I believe if it's asked for a motion to be brought to the floor and there's no motion made, then that way it would be nullified.
I have to look at Robert's rules in depth to see what treatment we have, but
I believe we'd like to have an opinion also from executive legal on what your thoughts are on that. Then our parliamentarian, I'd like to hear also on what he thinks too. So I think right now at this time, we're gonna ask for an opinion from our parliamentarian and go from his recommendation at this time.
Well, as far as I know, that come back over here, so it's in your guys' authority to get on the floor and ask for a main motion on that.
No motion?
There's no motion? Okay. Motion between here and the executive.
So at this time, the floor is open for any motion to bring this to the floor. Floor organizer, Senator goes ahead with the prior district.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of the body. At this time, I'd like to bring this, which one was this? Towing bill back on the floor, the pocket veto, back on the floor so that we can discuss how we can move forward with it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to bring this. Bring this back on the floor to address the issue. Do we have a second? Second by Senator Covers Up. We have a question. Question by Senator Kyle Gruns. All those in favor of bringing this bill to the floor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carries with a vote of 14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstaining. So at this time, we have the towing bill.
No, the issue is the veto.
So now what we're doing is we're establishing protocol in case it ever happens again, that we have some kind of effect, right?
We have to determine the level whether or not it's
Right now,
So what we have to do is call for a motion for override. So at this time, being that it's on the floor in front of the body, we're gonna have to call for a motion for an override, veto override. Floor organized, Senator goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, I'd like to make a motion to override the pocket veto.
We have a motion on the floor to override the pocket veto. Second,
Point of clarification.
point of clarification, go ahead, Senator Alden.
Just clarify, process here. I know it eventually ends up in a veto override process, so this is, for instance, the motion Senator Duke made is, the quickest way probably, because it's just going through the veto override process. If not, then we can't reintroduce it on the agenda as a new bill, or, I mean, just clarification, this is probably the quickest way we can get it moving is the veto override process.
Floor recognizes legal counsel for executive branch, Mr. Gawad.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By anything I say, I don't mean to be confrontative or in any way arguing about it. I guess I just wanted to let you know, I think our thinking was that if you decline to override the veto, then the bill passed in December would become a nullity, would just die. And then now you already have in front of you a new bill, that's the same bill with amendments I think the committee has discussed. And if you want to then pass that this session, and the chairman can sign it quickly, that will make it all effective before going through the veto override process. So I just stand and support, or to request that the body not support the motion to override, and then it should take care of itself. But again, I would defer to your parliamentarian and to your legal counsel, but that was our thinking, so you would not actually have to override. I just wanted to add one other thing. We really should think about amending that act, so that if the chairman still wants to approve something, but it's late, that he can approve it a little bit later, and we don't end up in this kind of a situation where nobody wants to argue, but we're kind of stuck in a legal morass. Thank you very much.
You said that if he was to take his motion back, then the old one would die, and they have the new one that they presented. This is the new one. Okay, so if he takes his motion back, then the old one dies, and then we address the new one. Okay. All right, so the floor organized, Senator goes ahead.
So, no, there's just like, Senator Alden was asking for a point of clarification. The one in the packet is a new one.
Yes.
And the old one was veto, pocket veto, what do we get one? Okay, so this was presented again for this session.
Yes.
Okay, new business. The other one was an old business. And why, I mean, we could have gone both ways this time. Unless there was new language, what was the difference between the two, the language part that I was saying? Are they both the same? Are there any difference in both of them?
I believe there's some amendments. to this
Amendments
new
to
one.
it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's my point of clarification. So right now, to get everybody up to speed, the other one, like I'm saying, I'm gonna repeat it again so that we all know what's going on. The other one was a pocket veto without realizing you should have signed it.
Yep.
So then, with that pocket veto, we presented another new bill with amendments. I mean, it had new language in it, and that's what's before the floor. So you want me to withdraw my motion so that we can act on this new business?
Yes.
Okay. Instead of overriding, okay, I got you. So with that clarification, can I just say that?
No,
No,
point of
what-
clarification. One more.
Are you done, Senator?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm just going back to the veto override process is, once it comes back to the branch, we got to vote on a veto, to, for instance, a motion veto override. We have to have that, right, on the veto override process. So we're trying to kill it. So he made the motion, I'm saying, can we go there and then just vote no? So it's dead, the old one's dead. What he was talking about. So you kill that, now you got the new one, the new business, then we can, so that's what, he's right on making a motion, all we have to do is vote no, then it's dead. Yeah, so it's dead at that old business. So he was right on his motion, just gotta vote no.
Okay. All right, we have different avenues to go, but I guess,
He doesn't have to retract his motion. Yeah.
so he doesn't have to retract his motion, we can move forward to vote on for the veto override and just vote no to kill it.
Then
Okay.
entertain this one.
Yep,
So the other one won't be an old business.
yes. So, does your motion still stand on the floor for veto override? Okay, so we got a second by Senator Alden. Question by Senator Not Afraid, the Lodge Gas District. All those in favor of the motion for the veto override, to vote on a veto override, raise your right hand. This is the vote, just so that we can vote. So you're gonna vote yes now to vote no next.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you recording this?
Well, extra couple crossed my.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? So at this time, now we will have a vote on a veto override. And this is where Senator Alden is requesting a vote of no so that this bill is killed. If you vote yes, you keep it alive and it stays in old business. But due to the fact we have a new bill in front of us, in the packet of new business, if you vote no, that gets rid of the old one, and then we address the new one. So does everyone understand before we vote? Okay.
Start them off, speaker. Start them off.
All right, I'm gonna call on Senator Not Afraid first to kind of start us out.
Final roll call.
Yes, final roll call vote.
You don't know what the heck's going on, vote abstain.
Not Afraid, Oshpajechat, no.
Probably the large red, no. Alden, Bighorn, no.
Not afraid, Bighorn, no.
Bighorn,
No.
Deep Green, Arrow Creek, no.
Goes ahead, Buckwa, no.
Zero Creek, no.
Backbone, Mighty Few, no.
Stewart, Mighty Few, no.
That brings us back to Reno. Senator Other Medicine.
other medicine, no.
Coyote Ranch, no.
Old Crow, no.
Shane Reno, no. You got 14?
0.
Okay. With a vote of 0 yes, 14 no, and 0 abstain, the bill is killed, and that will not be brought back. That's for the veto override. Now at this time, let's take a 3-minute recess. And then I'm going to talk with, we've got judicial here, I believe they might be here to give their report, so what we'll probably do is let's take a 3-minute recess, and then we'll call for a motion to, whoever wants to make the motion to amend the agenda to allow judicial to give their reports this afternoon. Okay, we've got 13 in the chambers. We'll come out of recess. At this time, we are in new business, but I'm going to call for a motion to amend the agenda and for us to allow us to receive a report from the judicial branch. So they're here this afternoon. So at this time, the floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor to amend the agenda to allow report to be made by the judicial branch. Do we have a second? Second by Senator Crookedarm. Do we have a question? Question by Senator Not Afraid of the Lodge Grass District. All those in favor of amending the agenda to bring to the floor the reports for judicial branch, raise your right hand. Senator Alden, did you vote yes or no? All those opposed? All those abstaining? All right. So at this time, we will amend the agenda, and on the floor will be to receive reports from the judicial branch. So at this time, the floor organizes Chief Judge Yarlett.
Good afternoon, Senators, and thank you for adjusting your schedule today to hear a quarterly report. And I believe everybody got a copy of the report that's being submitted. I do have some changes in our personnel. We've hired Dominic Oldout for the juvenile probation officer. We got a one-time funding from the state of Montana Crime Board, and that position is being funded until the end of June. And he'll be working primarily with truancy issues with the children on the reservation or that go to the area schools. The other adjustment we had in our personnel, we hired Rosanna Denny. I always forget her name. We hired Rosanna Denny, and she's part of the court clerk personnel. She also takes care of some of our IT issues. That was her training. She has some experience in it, and she is in training with Vince Badbear, who, so she can help do the daily maintenance or upkeep of our IT system. And the other adjustment was Darylene Oldcrow. She was the assistant court administrator / clerk of court, and in order to fulfill her job as the assistant court administrator, she asked to resign from a portion of her duties, and so I've reassigned the duty of the court clerk to Lucille Yarlett. She's had she's had a lot of experience and knows the ins and outs of the court system. And so I believe reassigning her that position is good for our court. We have a new process server. The other process server, Benito Morrison, who is on contract, had accepted a position with the executive. And we have Vernon Hill, who is on contract with us now. He was on a 30-day contract. He is a part-time employee. And we're hoping to extend that part-time employee to a full-time employee. We also have stats for the criminal, civil, juvenile, and healing to wellness, also the probation program, which includes Orrin Alden and Howard Shane. They oversee the probation department. They work with the adults. I think the biggest trend, the change in the trends that we've seen in the criminal department is the increased assaults and partner family member assault charges that have gone through our court just in the first 2 quarters alone. Our Court of Appeals judge, or appellate judge, has not been filled at this time. I'm working with Susie, or Sherry Matuzzi, and we've identified a judge, and I will be meeting with the judicial committee here in order to get that going. And I have Terrell Matt, who I got a temporary appointment with for 2 cases that were needed to be decided sooner than later. There was a timeline on them. We've applied for several grants. We have made it to the second phase in one of the grants, and we're hoping that we get this one. We applied for grant money to enhance the equine therapy program for the Healing to Wellness Court. Everything that has been done so far, I paid for training for Nancy Oldow, and everything else so far has been pretty much out of pocket for her, and I've helped her with other money for expenses of the horses, but a lot of it's been voluntarily, things from volunteers that were time with the horses and taking care of them and feed and things like that. So we're hoping to get funded with this grant. We've also applied for the CTAS grant, which is to help to focus on strengthening and developing the court's capacity and open up options for our juvenile offenders that are referred by the schools, social services, medical personnel, and family. Both grants are competitive, which means the applications are developed by the court and then evaluated by many others. There's a process that it goes through. We intend to proceed with the development of these programs that were planning whether we get the grants or not. If we get the grants, things will happen sooner than later. As I mentioned before, we did receive a small grant through the Montana Board of Crime Control for the juvenile probation officer position. The position is funded for 3 months. The juvenile officer will receive training in working with the Inland Wellness Juvenile Diversion Program and will serve as the court's daily liaison with the Office of Tribal Prosecutor. The funding will end on the 1st of July, and we hope to sustain that position once additional funding is available. And you can review the stats and the report from the Office of the Clerk of Court, which has listed the revenues of the amounts of fines and monies that were taken in for this quarter. They also include the traffic court fines, which is $400 at this time.
Excuse me, Chief Judge. I've got a question right there on the, your fines and fees. Is that still going to the general fund?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Would this money better serve the court if it was able to retain those funds for the courts to utilize them on different shortfalls in your budget and whatnot?
Yes, it will. It'll help us tremendously.
Yes, so if organized, Senator goes ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and Your Honor. It's good to hear your report again. My question is the same as, I know that it's still going to the general fund, the fines and fees, and I know that we have, we put this into, which is in litigation right now, as you probably all know. It's in the FMA amendments that's in tribal court litigation. But regardless of that, before, see that is something that we're looking on your behalf, that these would go directly back into your funding. But trying to resolve this, when we come to J, I know that I think we have to be very specific when we come to this year's revenue, that these fines and fees, we will put language in there for the 2014 budget that this goes directly back to the judicial. See, that's another way of looking at it as, as the lawmaking branch, because we've always argued that a budget is a law. It's law because it's a bill, and a bill is law. So anyways, when it's proposed for this coming session in July, that I think we have to put specific language in here that it goes back to the judicial branch. While the other litigation, I think we're gonna get to that, but, so that's just my point in trying to help the judicial branch, that the fines and fees goes back directly. I know that we've asked previously with the CPA, they said that yes, it does go back, but it doesn't all go back. I know that it's been used by the executive branch as they please. So we want to change that. We want to bring that change back to where you have control of that money. So, Jay, would that be appropriate if we specifically, when it comes to the, I know it's going to be proposed, the amendment part, we can specifically say this line item will specifically go back to the judicial branch? Can you make a comment on that? With your permission, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, Honorable Chief Judge, Court Administrator. It is important to note what the secretary had noted to the speaker that we are in litigation over this, among other issues, with the tribal chairman. And we know that the injunction against the FMA amendment, COB 1101, must be honored. The injunction prohibits this branch from seeking to implement any aspect of that law. So if we were to try to enact a law without executive concurrence, obviously we're in violation of the terms of the injunction. But you're suggesting that we do it through budget language. In a budget, our tribal budgets are obviously annual appropriations acts. It would be done with the concurrence of the executive branch. Accordingly, I would feel it's appropriate to do that, what you're suggesting, because all you're doing essentially is you're earmarking a specific source of tribal revenue for a specific expenditure that just happens to be where the revenue is being generated. With the judicial branch, you're not making permanent law, it's only law for the period of the fiscal year that it would govern. So I think it would be appropriate, obviously, with the executive concurrence. But as far as making general statutory law, the branch is currently enjoined from that, doing that as a permanent law. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You can go and proceed, Chief Judge.
I do need to make a correction on the quarter revenue. It's $83,006.64, not the amount that's on there.
Could you say that amount again?
$83,006.64.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and proceed.
I don't think I have much more other than that we're working with Eagle Springs Technology, who is, like I said earlier, is training Rosanna Denny to assist on the IT information, to upload documents onto our site. And Eagle Springs Technology has completed the development of the website, and we're hoping to put information for the general public on understanding pro law and the role of the judicial branch. It's a living document. We'll be uploading and adding new information as it becomes available to this website. And that's all I have.
All right, do we have any questions for the judicial branch at this time? Floor recognizes Senator Notter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. Welcome, Chief Judge, also your court administrator. We welcome the judicial branch. I want to thank the judicial branch for representing the Crow Nation at the National Judicial College and also at the University of Oklahoma. Their representation there was phenomenal a month or so ago. I know that other tribes are looking at our three branches of government as a model because, as the Chief Judge is aware, we received comment from other tribes that their government is tailored after the 48, where if there's a tribal court decision, it gets appealed to the tribal council. Well, we don't do that anymore here. Thank the Creator for that one. But Chief Judge, I wanted to thank you for your representation. I guess I had a question with reference to the appellate court judge. When could we get a date on a deadline? I think it's important. We do have, Mr. Speaker, an election forthcoming this fall, and there needs to be a tribal bar, and that bar is administered by an appellate court judge in order for there to be candidates Also, I believe there's a limited number of representation. Those that want to be lay advocates, there has to be a bar, and those that are existing attorneys can only practice one case at a time, and there's a huge shortage of representation. We need an appellate court. I guess my question is, Chief Judge, how many cases are pending before the appellate court that need to be addressed by an appellate court judge?
We have 6 to date. I had 2 that involved a juvenile matter that were appointed to, in a special appellate judge to consider those matters. As they were, they needed to be decided timely. I believe we have a total of 6 and 4 waiting for an appellate judge now.
Thank you, Chief Judge. I guess I have a request to the Judicial Chair, Marlon Notafrate, if we could possibly schedule a meeting with the Chief Judge and her staff, and maybe we can get a deadline going here and work toward getting an appellate court judge in place for, I mean, it has to come here for confirmation. So, I mean, I think it's important that we set a date and that we're proactive, and when we get a full functioning court. Hilaga, Mr. Speaker, the talk in the legal community, I'm also a judge for the state of Montana, as we're all aware of that, is that without an appellate court in place or a judge, a full-time judge, then the Boss Gila judges are looking for an excuse to overlook national farmers and go straight to federal court, because they can tell judges like Richard Siebel, well, the Crow Nation Tribal Court is not a full functioning court, so therefore we don't have to exhaust remedies. We can just go straight to federal court. I mean, that's the talk in the air, and I think we need to close that door as soon as we can. That's the request I have for Judicial Chair Marlon Notafrate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Floor organizer Senator Notafrate of the Bighorn District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Secretary and Honorable Chief Judge and her assistant, Bertina. Yes, I concur with Senator Notafrate of Las Vegas, and we schedule a meeting with the judicial branch, and I believe that should come forth after our sessions, and it'll be the week of April 22nd through the 26th. And I'll deal with Bertina and schedule a meeting during that week sometime. Thank you.
I'd just like to add too, I believe the Chief Judge does have a candidate for an appellate judge, so she can get with you, and then once the Judicial Committee meeting starts, then she can bring forth the person that she's nominating. I believe she spoke with the chairman. I talked to the chairman a little bit about it also. And
fantastic.
So I think that was going to be brought up later on also by the chairman.
Yep. Step ahead. Thank you.
Yep.
That's good.
So, Chief Judge, is there any other comments, or do you have any questions of the legislative branch, I guess I should say?
No, not at this time. My main concern was the appellate judge position, but that's going to be done here shortly. So that was my main concern.
Okay, I guess we'll get in touch with you after a regular session is over with, and then we can start having judicial committee meetings, and if things move quickly and smoothly, we can even look at having a special session for confirmation.
Yeah, we need to set a time so that she can take time off from, or reschedule her other
duties?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, well, thank you. Does anyone else have any more questions or comments for the judicial branch at this time? If not, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming over this afternoon, bringing your report. And we will see you on the next July session.
Or sooner than that.
Or sooner than that, yeah. All right, we're still in, that brings us back to, we're still in new business yet on our agenda. And that brings us back to a bill for an act entitled, an act to amend the Crow traffic ordinance to regulate rates and services provided by commercial towing companies. And at this time, I'm going to ask the chairman of the Transportation Committee, Senator Two-Leggins, does the executive branch legal need to be here for this bill?
We're still talking about that because we don't,
I believe,
nobody got this. Jeannie was like, this is my bill, but Darren's introduced by Darren, but it was her idea, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're gonna go about that, so.
I think, at this time, you should get in touch with the chairman to let him know that, you know, you introduced this bill, but it is a joint action resolution, so executive does have to have some sort of representation here unless they notify the speaker and the secretary saying, we're gonna allow Senator Pretty Pink to introduce this on behalf of the executive branch, and then we can move forward with it. So at this time, let's just recess until tomorrow. And then from now on, between now and then you can get in touch with the executive. And if they want to, then they can allow you guys to proceed forward with it, or else they can send someone from executive also, executive legal.
Yeah. I'll be here in the morning because I just got a call about my appointment's been canceled, so.
Okay.
I'll be here in the morning.
So now, tomorrow morning is breakfast. The branch is, some of the senators who get here at 8 a.m. sharp kind of get tired of waiting for the other senators who show up later on. So they want to have breakfast to get the ones who are kind of dragging themselves in, trying to lure you that show up late, that if there's food waiting for you here, you might come earlier. So we'll have breakfast tomorrow. And the staff is going to be providing, I believe they're volunteering, and they're asking that if anyone is to bring breakfast items, they're just asking that it be brought prepared.
Not just a dozen eggs.
Yeah, so, you know, that doesn't mean just show up to eat, they're asking the senators to bring something as well. So whatever you bring it prepared. Don't bring a dozen of eggs, cold eggs, and say, here you go, Kenny, go and go boil them. So he's gotta run outside and build a fire and all that. And then, okay. All right, we'll just see who brings what. So whoever brings what, you're all encouraged to bring something for breakfast. We'll eat together tomorrow, and then we'll start session on time. This morning, executive was here waiting for all the senators to show up. And we didn't reach quorum until about 11:45. And at that time, that's when they invited everybody to come to Reno Hall to eat. But they were here waiting for quorum this morning. So I think we kind of need to step up to the plate here. We're all elected. We have a duty to fulfill to the people that we need to be here before 10 o'clock. So that we start at 10. If we can get some more stuff done tomorrow, we can recess for Thursday because we have the signing ceremony and 2 meetings, Thursday morning and then the signing ceremony at the multi. And then Friday, I know a lot of us are going to be looking at going to Bozeman for the powwow, so I think we'll recess Thursday and Friday, but still you're required to be here on Thursday for the 2 meetings, for organizers, Secretary of the House.
I'm gonna advocate for the staff here. Go show food, it's not so much, but it's big. Obviously, they're here every day at 8 o'clock, 8:30, and then we try to make them cook for us to get here early. I don't think that's right. Zapsa, Kawapiki, Kabogwis, oh.
All right, floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I kind of made that suggestion when I was sitting here all morning waiting for a quorum. And kind of a tactic to get all the senators to get here on time and kind of before session starts at 10 a.m. And my suggestion was that there's a Little Chief Cafe over there, and they make biscuits and gravy, and maybe we can order there and have it ready by 8:30, and you don't have to. So if that's okay with Mr. Speaker, that was my suggestion.
All right. Thank you, that is a good suggestion. So with that, we get, finish up on new business tomorrow.
Get out of cooking.
We can finish up on new business tomorrow, and then recess until Monday, but still we have the two meetings Thursday morning at 9 o'clock and at 10 o'clock. And then the executive is requesting for us to be able to multi by 11 o'clock. I don't know if they want us to dress a certain way or anything. I haven't really heard anything. Has any of the senators, have any of you heard? They want, like how we did with Cloud Peak.
Dress blues.
If not, I guess we just, if you hear of anything, let us know though, if anyone knows. So, all right, so we'll recess until tomorrow morning and then reconvene.
Genius. She doesn't like the gravy over there, so she's gonna bring gravy tomorrow. I'll bring some eggs.
All right.
Otherwise, we could go to Little Chief. Is that
That's what-
8:30? Is that?
Yeah, that we're gonna have some brought from Little Chief.
Little Chief's make a big breakfast.
All right.
I'll
Yeah.
bring some rolls or something.
Yeah.
Why don't you just let each district bring something, the same thing, that way it's a lot easier.
All right. So what do you guys want to bring then?
Boiled eggs.
We got
Salt, come off this.
Cooking eggs.
Add salt.
I guess we'll let Kenny write it
Scrambled
down
eggs.
then, whatever. All right. Doogie was first. He called out boiled eggs right away first, so he gets boiled eggs. Anything else? The districts,
We'll do gravy.
Black Clouds will do gravy. Reno? All right,
Have to ask your wife.
okay. Brett. So Brett from Bighorn, Reno?
You bring bread or biscuit?
Biscuits.
What do you wanna bring?
What's that?
What do you wanna bring?
Sausage, eggs, or
Hash browns, how's that sound? Hash browns? All right, Reno will bring hash browns.
someone brings waffle, I got waffle maker, someone brings it back.
Lots grass.
Our appetite.
Or you guys are bringing your appetite.
I'm just kidding. I'll bring some hash brown.
Okay, hash browns as well from Lots grass.
Donut.
And donuts from Wyola.
We're sitting all at
All right.
Couple
it's
gallons.
just- All right,
8:30.
Someone else.
yeah.
Remember, don't put anybody.
Well, I'll get here early and we'll start cooking and we'll get carried away probably.
Who's bringing the bacon?
Oh, no one's bringing any bacon. I'll have the,
The ones that aren't here, bring Junior and.
can we order, a bunch of sausage and bacon from Cromark in the morning?
Candy cane.
Can you check into that, Jackie? and see if they can bring a bunch of, we can get that prepared by them so it's warm by the time. Okay, Jackie's going to bring some biscuits. All right then, so we'll see everybody for breakfast tomorrow morning.